depth chart. Deion Sanders had this to say about the trade.
Wondering what your reaction is.
I don't give a damn about the Browns at all. I care about the Colorado Buffaloes. I do love me some Shedeur Sanders, don't believe that. I care about him. The rest of that mess, I don't, okay? I'm a coach trying to win just like they're trying to win games, but I could care less of who they traded.
Great show gets even better. We welcome in Swagoo, but we start with our man Stephen A. Your thoughts?
Yes.
What's up, brothers?
What's up, my brother? I think that was a brilliant response by Primetime Deion Sanders. I think it was very smart. I think it was very calculated. From the standpoint of sending the message, I got priorities over here. I'm not concerned about that. I love that guy because he's my son. But that's his business. That's their football team. I got my own issues over here. I got a 2 and 3 squad that I got to get better. That's what he's saying. The reason why that's so important, fellas, is because anything else could have been misconstrued, perceived in the wrong way, and ultimately held against Shedeur as an impediment to the progress that you're anticipating he will be able to make.
The Browns just lost a tough one, 17-21 against the Minnesota Vikings, and now chaos brews in Cleveland. The locker room is quiet, the fans are restless, and the media, they're circling like vultures. But amid all that noise, a name keeps echoing through every sports radio call-in, every debate table, and every Sunday talk show, Shedeur Sanders. And tonight, we're diving into a conversation that might just shake up the entire quarterback landscape in Cleveland. Because on ESPN's First Take, Stephen A. Smith, the voice of controversy and conviction, dropped a bombshell take. He said it loud and clear: Shedeur Sanders is coming. He's not just a backup. He's a heartbeat away from being the guy in Cleveland. Now let's break this down. After Joe Flacco got traded to the Bengals, a move that shocked everyone considering he came from their own division rival, the Browns' quarterback room changed overnight. Jake Browning, struggling to find wins since Joe Burrow went down, now gets help from the veteran. But the real story isn't about Cincinnati. It's about what that move did for Cleveland's depth chart. Because suddenly, Shedeur Sanders moved from QB3 to QB2. And that, folks, might just be the moment everything changes. Deion Sanders, never shy to speak, was asked about the move, and his response? Cold. Calculated. Classic Prime. He said, "I don't give a damn about the Browns. I care about the Colorado Buffaloes." And that's when Stephen A. Smith leaned in, looked into the camera, and said, "That was brilliant." Because Stephen A. knew exactly what Deion was doing. He wasn't dodging questions. He was protecting his son. When Deion says, "That's their football team. I got my own," he's drawing a line. He's keeping Cleveland's business separate from Shedeur's opportunity. Because if he'd said anything else, if he'd made it sound like he was lobbying for his son, the critics would have pounced. The Browns might have seen it as interference. And suddenly, Shedeur would have been labeled the coach's kid, not the next man up. And Stephen A. said it best. That was a strategic move from a father who knows the game inside out. Because Deion's silence might have just opened the loudest door yet for his son's NFL career. Sometimes the smartest move in football is the one you don't make. And Primetime just played chess while everyone else played checkers. Now, Stephen A. went further. He said the Browns have been trying to figure things out at quarterback. Dillon Gabriel isn't bad, but he's not a lock. You're not looking at Gabriel and saying, "There's no way Shedeur gets a shot," he said. You are looking at him and saying, "He's a placeholder." And that's the key word, placeholder. Dillon Gabriel might be QB1 right now, but even Stephen Smith doesn't believe that's permanent. He called Shedeur's new QB2 spot his rightful place. Because the truth is, Shedeur should have been there from day one. Once Flacco was benched, that job should have been his. Now the stage is set. One play, one injury, one bad game, and Shedeur Sanders steps onto an NFL field for real. One play away from proving every doubter wrong. One snap. That's all it takes for the Sanders era to begin in Cleveland. Then Marcus Spears, Swagoo, came in, fired up, and backed the take with even more heat. He said, "He's one play away, man. One bad decision away from stepping into a real NFL game." But what Swaga pointed out next, that's where the controversy really starts. He said Cleveland played this whole thing like the media, not like a football team. He said, "You don't keep Shedeur at QB3 when you know Joe Flacco's done. You don't hide a player like that. You prepare him." And he's right. Because in football, being the number 2 means something. It means you're locked in, every week, preparing as if you'll start. You're reading the same defensive looks, taking the same mental reps, living the same film room life as QB1. You're ready, because at any moment, it could be your team. But Cleveland didn't do that. Not at first. They played games with the depth chart, like it was politics, not football. Now Flacco's gone, and suddenly Shedeur's promoted, not because of vision, but because of necessity. Swaga said it straight. He should have been in that role from the beginning. He should have been preparing to play. And that hits deep, because this isn't about favoritism. It's about football logic. You don't draft a kid like Shedeur Sanders with that kind of arm, that kind of pedigree, and that kind of poise, just to sit him at QB3 behind a fading vet. Not after what we've seen from him in Colorado. Not after the way he handled pressure, spotlight, and scrutiny all year long. What do you think, Gridiron Nation? Should Shedeur have been the backup from the start? Or did the Browns make the right call letting him wait his turn? And let's not forget, Cleveland's coming off that brutal 17-21 loss to the Vikings. Gabriel looked solid at times, but not special. The offense stalled on third downs. Drives fizzled out. Fence booed. The same old Browns story. Flashes of hope, followed by frustration. Steven noticed that too. He said Gabriel looked good, but added, "Not great." Just steady, sure. But he's not Shedeur Sanders.
Well, the first thing it means, he one play away. One play away, one bad game away, one decision away from getting into actual NFL regular season game where it means something. And then two, what it says to me is that this was all semantics with Joe Flacco being the second string quarterback. Because if you have Shedeur Sanders on the third string, and this is something that came to my mind, fellas, if you had him as your third string quarterback, why would he be up for a trade to go to the Cleveland Browns? To try to go, the Cincinnati Bengals, to try to get to that quarterback spot and try to become a second string guy. Here is my issue with how Cleveland has played this. And the one issue that I have is Cleveland played this like the media. They didn't play this like a real football team. Shedeur Sanders, like you alluded to, S.A., should have been the second string quarterback once Joe Flacco was removed from the starting job. And let me say this as well. Dylan Gabriel looked good. Dylan Gabriel was really solid against the Minnesota Vikings. And now you have an opportunity to go forward with him based off of the first week of him playing to see if he's the guy. But Shedeur Sanders should have been in that position. It goes back to what I talked about in the preseason.
Swaga's rant hit hard. If you're a number 2 quarterback, you prepare like you're going to play. You live that way. And that's the difference. Shedeur was ready to do that from day one, but Cleveland's hesitation wasted precious weeks of reps, rhythm, and preparation. And now it's all catching up. Because you can feel it. This quarterback situation is on the edge of a breaking point. The Browns' offense looks flat. Their playoff hopes are slipping. The locker room tension is rising. And all it takes is one more bad game from Gabriel before the whispers turn into chants. Put Shedeur in. When your city's frozen and your season's falling apart, sometimes the only thing left to do is light a spark. And Stephen A., in classic fashion, didn't mince words. He said it's only a matter of time. He predicted that by week 13 or 14, when the Browns are likely out of playoff contention, Shedeur Sanders will start. Not as a PR stunt, not as a gimmick, but because it'll be time to see what the kid can do. To see if he's the answer. To see if he's the future. And Stephen made one last point that hit different. He said Cleveland owes it to their fans. When you've given the city nothing to cheer for, when the cold rolls in and your playoff hopes die out, you owe it to the people who keep showing up. You owe them something to believe in. And maybe that something is Shedeur Sanders. Do you think Stephen Smith is right? Should the Browns turn to Shedeur once the season slips away, or should they stick with Gabriel and ride it out? The storm in Cleveland's just beginning, and Shedeur Sanders might be the lightning strike waiting to hit. Stephen Smith didn't hesitate, he went right for it. He looked across that first take table and said, "I believe we'll see Shedeur Sanders by week 13 or 14. And it wasn't a guess. It was a statement. He laid it out clearly. The Browns aren't winning enough games. They're slipping in the AFC North. The energy's down. The team's lost that spark. And when that happens, you don't just sit on potential, you unleash it. Because by then, the Browns will have nothing left to lose, except another Sunday. When the playoffs fade, the truth begins, and Cleveland's truth might wear number 14. Shedeur Sanders is hope. He's the injection of energy, of flash, of fire that this team desperately needs. Because right now, Dillon Gabriel's doing just enough to survive, not to inspire. And survival football doesn't win over a city like Cleveland. Let's be real, Gridiron Nation. Would you rather watch another week of safe, predictable play calling, or roll the dice on Shedeur and bring some life back to this offense? Shedeur Sanders has already lived under the spotlight. He's played through louder critics, tougher defenses, and bigger moments than most rookies ever see. He's got his father's fire and his own edge, a quiet confidence that says, "I've been ready." Steven knows that. Swaga knows that. Even the fans can feel it. It's not a matter of if anymore, it's a matter of when. You can't hide star power forever. Eventually, it demands the field. Now, Chris, Mad Dog, Russo jumped in with a little reality check. He said, "Hey, Gabriel's got experience, 64 college games, 6 years of football." And that's true. He's seen a lot of snaps. He's older, maybe a little steadier, but that's not the same thing as NFL readiness. Because at some point, the Browns need to stop settling for experience and start betting on upside. And that upside? It's wearing brown and orange on the sideline, holding a clipboard, waiting for the call. Russo even admitted the Browns could play Shedeur in 3 or 4 games by season's end. And that next chapter might just be titled The Rise of Shedeur Sanders. What do you think, Gridiron family? If Cleveland's out by week 13, should the Browns hand Shedeur the keys and see what he's got? Or do you think it's too soon for the rookie to take over? Because the last thing this team needs is another reset. Another rebuild. Another season of maybe next year. What they need is identity. And you can feel it every week. The Browns' identity crisis grows louder. A team built on defense, still trying to figure out its soul on offense. That's why Stephen A.'s words cut so deep. He wasn't just talking about football. He was talking about belief. Cleveland doesn't need another quarterback. They need a quarterback to believe in. And that, my friends, is where Shedeur Sanders fits in. Let's rewind for a second. Go back to Deion Sanders' interview. When he said, "I don't give a damn about the Browns." If Deion had said anything that hinted at favoritism, it would have been used against Shedeur. But instead, Deion played it cool. He made it clear, that's their team. I'm focused on mine. And that silence spoke volumes. Because behind that line was a message to Cleveland. Don't look at me. Look at him. Let him earn it. And that's exactly what Shedeur's doing right now, quietly earning every moment, every snap, every inch of trust from that coaching staff. When the snow falls on Lake Erie and hope feels frozen, that's when legends are born. And think about what Stephen A. said about those fans. He painted the picture perfectly. Freezing temperatures, empty playoff dreams, loyal fans in the stands asking one simple question, what are we doing? And that's when the franchise has to answer. You can't sell another rebuild. You can't hide behind excuses. You can only give them what they've been asking for, a reason to believe again. And that reason? It might just be number 14 walking out of the tunnel, calm as ever, ready for his moment. Stephen believes Shedeur's debut will happen not because the Browns want it, but because the fans will demand it. Because history tells us something about hesitation in this league. It kills opportunity. And opportunity doesn't wait forever. If Cleveland doesn't move now, another team will. Another coach will see what Deion sees. What Stephen sees. What we all see, a poised, mature quarterback who's already built for the big stage. And when that happens, Cleveland might realize they had the answer sitting right there all along. You can't rewrite history, but you can start the next chapter, and Shedeur Sanders is holding the pen. So here we are, heading into another week of Browns football. Same tension, same questions, and one undeniable truth. Every incomplete pass, every stalled drive, every fourth quarter heartbreak brings us closer to seeing Shedeur Sanders take that field. It's not just about a game anymore. It's about a moment, a changing of the guard, a father's silence, a son's rise, and a city on the brink of something new. Stephen Smith might have said it first, but everyone's starting to feel it now. Shedeur Sanders isn't coming. He's already here, waiting. Cleveland's next chapter won't be written in ink. It'll be written in fire, and Shedeur Sanders is the spark. And that's your Gridiron Insights breakdown on Stephen A. Smith's bold claim that Shedeur Sanders will start the season for the Cleveland Browns. But now it's your turn. What do you think? Should the Browns let Shedeur take over once their playoff hopes are gone? Or is it still too early for Prime Son to make his NFL debut? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this debate's just getting started. And if you love passionate, no-filter NFL talk that cuts through the noise, smash that like button, subscribe to Gridiron Insights, and join the movement, because this is where the game meets the truth.